sitting here in my home, tonight I reflect on a person I heard today talking. They're in their 60s, and they were saying how when they were growing up, houses in this area, houses in South Florida, everything was so much cheaper. And it was almost like a no-brainer to buy, and how now everything is built up and it costs more. But out of all this hot air that this person was talking, they took no accountability that when things were quote-unquote cheaper and more affordable, they took no accountability that they chose not to buy because they didn't want the responsibility, because they didn't want to take any risk. They assumed, or again, they didn't want the responsibility for the chance that property would even get cheaper or it would always be there. When you don't take accountability and own what you did and you deflect it on someone else or something else, there's always someone to blame. And we all have fault in our life. But the way you work through it is to evaluate, to be self-aware. This is what you hear when you hear people say knowledge is self-aware. Is that you're willing to analyze what you did right or wrong and work through it. And so if you're around one of these people, you hear these people talking about how cheaper houses used to be, then ask them, why didn't they buy everything they could buy at that time? I'll tell you why. They didn't want the responsibility. They didn't want to take the risk. And it was their fault. And many people now are paid more, have a baby boomer inheritance, or they never took responsibility, they never developed their career, and they just got priced out of the market. I remember even in 2019, when I was shopping before the pandemic, I would look at places and people would say, oh, that's not worth that. And sometimes I'll post a flashback video of a property with a price that was from 2019, and some people say they still want half off of that. And that property sold years ago, it's worth double now. So the message is, don't live above your means. Oh, that's a clear message. Because you got to live below your means. But what are your means? What are you doing every day? What did you do? Did you run from responsibility your entire life? Did you not take calculated long-term risk? Were you not willing to feel the pain of impulse control, of lack of immediate gratification? It's easy to get a new car. It's hard to get a new house. Why? Because a house, you can't get it as easily as a car, even though sometimes a car costs just as much. And that's the deception on all the clickbait and all the war stories and all the old time stories about how things used to be cheaper and how houses used to be. It's all BS. Cut through it. Because ask them, when they're in the middle of this hot air, long hour speech about how things used to be, ask them, well, if things were so affordable then, why didn't you buy everything you could buy and buy two of them? And the answer is, you didn't want responsibility. That's the answer. And now your short-term decisions have caught up to your long-term decisions. And you'll still be fine. Why? Because no one starves in a first world country, and you can still figure out a way. But you'll never live your best life if you don't live up to your full potential. And your full potential requires going through some pain of sacrifice, responsibility, accountability, and the grace of God, because we all make mistakes. Okay? But things are better than ever. Okay? And sometimes things feel worse than ever, but look at yourself. And that's it, guys. And we all need grace. We all need help. It's not about anyone's better than anyone. Okay? It's not even about a nasty video. It's about, remember this. Because this is what I had to remind myself. You got to remind yourself. When you have a decision to make for your long-term benefit, it's going to cause some short-term pain. And that short-term pain is responsibility for long-term gratification, because denial of short-term gratification. So that when another 10, 20, 30 years passes, You have equity. You have a life that you've built because you weren't sitting on your hands waiting for this perfect moment. There's better moments. There's living below your means. There's time. There's sacrifice. But you know what I mean. Okay. Hope this video helped.